met you yet, I'm Danielle Calcagney. I am the social media manager at the New Jersey Department of Transportation, and I'm Transcom's Professional Development Subcommittee Chair. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar entitled Make Friends with Research, Using Free Tools to Make Your Campaign More Strategic. This webinar will feature a great speaker with a lot of knowledge and experience on this topic, and I'll talk about our presenter more in a moment. But today's webinar is part of AASHTO's Committee on Transportation Communications, or Transcom's, mission to facilitate the sharing of best practices among state DOTs. The membership of this committee is comprised of the top communication officials from each of the 52 AASHTO member departments. Among other activities, Transcom hosts an annual meeting that focuses on best practices, state-to-state collaboration, and professional development. And we have some very exciting news. If you didn't see the save the date email that Maggie just sent out, this year's Transcom annual meeting will be held in Atlanta from September 22nd to the 25th. Registration will be available soon, and Maggie will be sending out the call for proposals within a week or so. This webinar is open to anyone and everyone, so feel free to share information on the series with friends and colleagues. The presentation will be recorded and uploaded to the Transcom website, which is transportation.org/communications, where you can learn about Transcom's regular webinar series and general Transcom information. So today's webinar is based on a proposal from last year's Transcom annual meeting that unfortunately was not able to happen due to extenuating circumstances, but we are happy that our speaker was able to turn the proposed session into a webinar so that everyone on the Transcom committee can still benefit from the shared knowledge. We all know research and planning are important parts of a successful communications campaign. The thought of conducting research can be daunting for government communicators. And in this session, you'll learn how the Oregon Department of Transportation was able to conduct primary and secondary research and boost its campaign planning and messaging testing to the next level using free and low-cost tools. The presentation will give participants a simple-to-follow strategy for success. By the end of this session, attendees will learn how research makes PR activities strategic by ensuring that communication is specifically targeted to audience who want, need, or care about the information. How research can help them create smart objectives, develop better strategies, and employ more compelling and engaging tactics, identify free resources of secondary research, and choose the most effective and efficient research and measurement methods for their communications planning efforts. That's a lot of information, but I'm excited to get into it. Before we get started, a few things to keep in mind. First, please type your questions into the Q&A box or raise your hand. After all presentations are done, we will unmute you if you would like to speak on camera. We have plenty of time for Q&A at the end, and we'll be sure to get to as many questions as we can. Now, on our speaker, Sally Ridenauer, is an award-winning government communicator with a specialty in web-based communications. She currently works for the Oregon Department of Transportation as the Chief Content Strategist. Sally has 25 plus years of experience in public and media relations. She is an accredited member of the Public Relations Society of America College of Fellows. Sally has a double bachelor's degree from the University of Idaho in political science and organizational communication. And in her spare time, she enjoys entering recipe contests and going on adventures with her friends and family. So now I will kick it off to Sally. Sally, take it away.
Okay. So Danielle was right in her introduction. Research can be really daunting sometimes, especially when you work in government or in a nonprofit, because oftentimes you just don't have a big budget for campaigns and research. And a lot of times we're working in really small teams. So today I'm I'm going to share with you a case study from the Oregon Department of Transportation, and hopefully it will give you some ideas and some tools so that you can make research a regular part of your campaign planning. So let's start with the basics. Why do we want to use research when we're starting to plan a campaign? Well, because research really ensures that our communication is specifically targeted to the people who want, need, and care about the information that we're going to share. It helps us put together a successful plan. It allows us also to show results. And as you know, a lot of our administrators and leaders are very results oriented. So when we have measurable results from our campaigns, that gives us bonus points in the executive suite for sure. Research also allows us to really focus our efforts on the things that are going to pay off for the campaign. When I talk about research, what I'm specifically talking about is gathering information, listening, observing, monitoring, testing hypotheses, strategies and messages, and then judging results. In this case, in the case study I'm going to share with you, it really helped us to narrow down our target audience, determine how they like to receive information, and then discover how they felt about information. Simply stated, research helps you strategize. It allows you to make data-driven decisions, which are always the best kind of decisions. So let's talk about some of the terminology we're going to use today. We're going to talk about two different kinds of research, primary research and secondary research, and then quantitative research and qualitative research. So primary research means it's something that you do on your own. So it could be like a focus group, it could be an observational study, it could be a survey. Secondary research is something that somebody else has done, and it includes things like internet searches, government data, industry articles, things like that. Quantitative research is about numbers. Oh, I have that backwards on my slide. And quantitative means that it's things that have things you can count, things you can measure. So like if you've ever filled out a survey that had a multiple choice question, that's quantitative. Qualitative is what's behind the numbers. It's what helps you understand how someone perceives something or what their attitude is about something. Focus groups are an example of qualitative research. And I apologize for having that backwards on my slide. So what type of research do you need? The type of research you need depends upon, of course, what your campaign or program is about. So, for example, if you are wanting people to attend an event, it's good to know about your audience, about the demographics, their age, their occupation, their education level, um, about the location. Where is your audience? County, city, neighborhood, rural, urban. And then psychographics. Psychographics means what are their attitudes, their opinions, their likes, their dislikes. It's also helpful if you can know a little bit about what strategies and tactics have worked in the past when working with that audience, and also what communication channels they use. So when we did our campaign, our case study that I'm going to share with you, that's the kind of information that we were looking for. So this case study that I'm going to talk about is kind of a little bit different. It's not about like a safety campaign or some of those things that we do a lot in communications in the transportation industry. This was something having to do with our strategic action plan. So our leadership developed a brand new strategic action plan, and it was a 3-year plan to describe ODOT priorities, goals, and outcomes. And our job as the communication team was to develop messaging about the plan that would resonate with specific audiences. And our challenge was to figure out what parts of the plan would be of most interest to our audience and what types of messages would be most meaningful to them. The strategic plan is really important to the agency and our commission, but it's not important to my mom. So, the average Oregonian doesn't necessarily care about our strategic action plan. However, some of our key partners and stakeholders do, elected officials, industry partners, et cetera. It's really important to them. Watchdog groups, those people really care about the things that we're planning and doing. And so we needed to know how those folks felt about the plan and if the plan was something that they were interested in and interested in joining in. So before you start planning, before you start researching, the first thing you need to do is to put your thinking cap on. Thinking is actually the most important part of your research. Um, Sit down by yourself or with your colleagues and think about what is it you want to get out of your research. Do some brainstorming, do some whiteboard exercises, just kind of get those juices flowing and to think about the different aspects of the information that you might need or what would be helpful to you as you're working on your plan. So here's what we wanted to know. We wanted to know who is our audience. We kind of had a pretty good idea, but we wanted to verify that. We wanted to know what the challenges were that our audience was facing, what motivates them, what their attitudes about the strategic action plan would be, and the related topics included in the plan, what value keywords they use so that we could talk their language. And so as we sat down and we brainstormed these 4 questions, then we thought about where could we get the answers to these questions. And we knew that we needed to do some secondary research and some primary research. Secondary research is awesome because generally it's free, and free, as you know, is a very good price. So here's what we used for our secondary research. We looked at our email distribution lists. We looked at social media. The state of Oregon does what's called a needs and issues survey, which talks to Oregonians about what's important to them and what the direction they want the state to go in. So we looked at that data. We looked at existing research done by other parts of the organization. One great thing about working for a Department of Transportation is often there is a research unit and they have tons and tons of information about things that have gone on within your agency and with other agencies. And so you can look at similar topics, similar issues, past campaigns, those kinds of things. And you can find a lot of good information there. We did a media review. What are some of the things that have been brought up in the past about some of the issues that are in our plan? AASHTO and Transcom actually are great information sources. One of the best information sources is the Transcom site. In the past award-winning entries, you can see some great stuff that your peers have done, different campaigns, different strategies and tactics that they've executed in the past. They're probably reaching out to similar audiences that you would reach out to. So there's a lot of good information to mine from there. And then, of course, on the AASHTO site, there's tons of great research, and you can do a deep dive into all sorts of different topics. One that I love, of course, because I am a member of the Public Relations Society of America, is the PRSA.org website. And if you're a member benefit is the tremendous amount of material that's available in their library. And this includes case studies from all sorts of different places around the world on communication projects, programs, campaigns, and then a huge library of research about behavior, about communication channels, just all sorts of good stuff. And then, of course, data.gov, great place for um, demographic, location type information, all great resources and all free or almost free. If you're a member of PRSA, you get access to that website. If you're not, well, you might consider joining because there's that and a lot of other cool stuff that the organization provides. Other sources that we didn't use but that are available to you, U.S. Department of Transportation website, um, Google Keyword Planner. If you haven't used this in the past, it is a really cool tool that can give you an idea of some of the types of words that people use to communicate about a topic. The Pew Research Center is another great one. They have a ton of information on how people consume information. How do they consume it on mobile devices? How do they watch TV? Do they listen to the radio? Where are they getting their information? Great stuff. And then, of course, your local library. My local librarian is a great help when I'm conducting secondary research. She often recommends sources that I hadn't ever even thought about. So great service that they provide. And then, of course, there's tons of data available from the census, data.gov, and the National Archives. So all of those are wonderful resources for secondary research. Okay, let's talk a little bit about primary research. It's a good idea to invest time in doing a little bit of primary research. And a lot of people think primary research is expensive because they automatically think about like telephone surveys or what's intercept surveys. That's where the people with the clipboards come and ask people in the mall or on the street questions, or focus groups, which can be really expensive. But there are great primary research tools that are no cost or very low cost and really just take some time. So I'm going to talk about a couple of those that we used for this particular case study. And then I'll talk about a couple that we didn't use. So we didn't do a survey of our audience because we were able to glean enough information from our secondary research to really get a lot of that information. Plus, we had a lot of information already about our audience. So we didn't use that tool, but that's a tool that's available to you. And I would say if you're going to do a survey as part of your initial research and you're trying to find out about your audience or their attitudes, keep your survey short and simple. People get bombarded with surveys. So consider just asking one or two questions. Also consider dividing up your audience of people you're sending your survey to. Maybe send a one question survey to one group and another one question survey to another group, and kind of pull information from both surveys to get the information that you need. People are more likely to do a 1 or 2 question survey than something that's much longer. And then do some observational research. This was something that we didn't need to do because we got the information we needed in our secondary research, but this is a really easy tool. Go to where your audience is, observe your audience, listen to what they say, watch what they do. If you have, open house events or community events or public meetings that are done by other agencies, go and attend and listen and see what people are talking about, the language they use, the attitudes they have. It's, again, a very simple way to gather some primary research, and it doesn't cost much but your time. So one of the things that we did for primary research was phone calls, just a simple phone call. Interviewing just a few members of your target audience over the phone is very simple and it's free. You can ask for opinions, run ideas by them, and gain very valuable insight. It's best that you keep your questions very neutral, so no leading questions, and that you keep your questions pretty simple. And then when you're doing this, break out the task so that you don't have to do all of the phone calls. What we did is we did a divide and conquer. Our communication teams has relationships with different people that represent different audiences. And so we asked the people that had relationships with those folks to do these interviews, and we gave them a questionnaire that they then filled out as they were interviewing the person. And if you look at statistics, which I know all of you do for fun in your spare time, but you'll find that with this type of primary research, this interview research, you actually don't need to do that many interviews to get the information that you need to be statistically valid. As little as 5 interviews can be a great representative sample and can give you the information that you need, can help you spot some trends. And so our folks did that, and then they inputted the information into a spreadsheet, and we used that to analyze the results. So we dumped all of our primary research and our secondary research into a SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, if you don't know, it means you analyze the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Generally, it's not specifically for an audience, a SWOT analysis. Not a lot of people do a SWOT analysis of their audience, but I find that it's a great way to organize the data that you've collected in your primary and secondary research. And it's a great way to spot things that you need to include in your plan. And then we were also able to use some of our findings to help us develop our strategies and tactics for our plan. Okay. I am just going to drag the picture here a little bit bigger so that I can see the chat in case there's any questions. Although I know Danielle is monitoring it.
Nothing as of now.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's take a quick look at the SWOT analysis that we did. So this may be very hard to see on the screen, but I'll kind of walk you through it. So this is basically just a screenshot of an Excel spreadsheet. And so we listed our different target audiences that we had for this campaign. Then we broke out those groups into smaller groups. So for example, local government included cities, counties, metropolitan planning organizations, transit districts, etc. And then we listed out, using the research that we had conducted, we listed out strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We also included motivators, pain points, and then some of the keywords that people use. So in the local government example, a strength was that they were familiar with our work, they're familiar with our goals, and they have similar goals. So they definitely would probably be very interested in working with us on the strategic action plan, especially since they get some of our money. Weaknesses, competing priorities, limited resources. Our cities and counties are stretched thin when it comes to resources. So that was a weakness. Opportunities, there's great partnership opportunities with local governments. And we also have existing communication networks. So that's a great opportunity. Threats, resistance to change. Oh, it's just one more thing the state wants us to do. So that was good information. Motivators, of course, anything that makes their life easier is a motivator, something they can share. Money, working towards the same goals. Pain points, unfunded mandates. Cities hate unfunded mandates from the state. They don't like more work for no significant reward. I mean, who does? And then, of course, the pain point for them is community pushback, especially when the community is not so happy about something the state is doing and the city is getting the pushback from the community. Keywords, the words that they use to describe the things they value are working together, supportive, partners, sharing. So you can see that gathering this information and putting it in this spreadsheet was really helpful as we were planning out our strategies and tactics. What would appeal to our audience? What would be a pain point for them? That was super, super helpful. Okay, so once we had our SWOT analysis complete, we were able to answer the questions that we originally, I'm going to go back here in my slides a bit. We were able to answer these questions. We knew who our audience was. We knew some of the challenges that were facing them. We knew what their attitudes were about the strategic action plan related topics, and we knew some of the keywords they use. So we were able to plug that in to our plan. So with the strategic action plan, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but it does to us sometimes. Sometimes our subject matter experts, our program staff, or even our engineers will take their hand at writing, and they maybe don't write the same way that we do as communicators. And they had so graciously developed a list of talking points for us and then handed them to us. And we were just so grateful for those, but we knew some of them were a little bureaucratic and perhaps a little off-putting. So we decided to do some message testing as part of our communication plan because we wanted to test those key messages and see if they resonated with our audience. We kind of knew in our gut which ones wouldn't, but we needed the data to show leadership, you know, these ones are stinkers, these ones are good, these need some work. And so what we did is we decided to do an online activity because this was during the pandemic and we couldn't get together with people. We often will do focus groups or that type of primary research, that type of action work. But during a pandemic, of course, we couldn't do that. And it turned out that that was actually a benefit because it didn't cost us anything to do this message testing. And we have found that it's something that we can we can do no matter if there's a pandemic or not. It's super easy, and people enjoy participating in this kind of activity. So let me tell you a little bit more about that. Our goal was to determine what words and phrases and messages would be best to use when we were communicating with our audience about the strategic action plan. So we looked at what tools do we have to do this message testing. And one of the tools that we have is called Optimal Workshop. And what it is, it's actually usability testing for websites. However, this tool has a really cool feature called card sorting. And what it does is it allows you to put some statements in the activity and then put some categories, and then people move the statement into the category. And I'll show you that in just a second. And it's a great way to see how people think about certain issues. The software was something we already had, and we could have used a survey tool to conduct something similar, but this card sorting was kind of different than a survey, and we thought people would enjoy it. So we developed the activity, and here is a screenshot. So the tool, what it does is it puts your statements on one side, and then it puts the categories in the middle. So these were the key messages that our subject matter experts had developed. And then we created categories of, I don't like it, meh, I don't really feel strongly one way or the other about it, I like it, or it needs work. And so people, all they had to do was drag the statement into one of the 4 categories. And then the tool would then tally up all the results and in a nice, neat package. So all we needed now, since we had this activity, was a way to distribute it to our audience. And so I know a lot of you probably use GovDelivery or another email distribution list. So we did that. We harnessed GovDelivery. We have about 100,000 subscribers in our GovDelivery digital communication tool. And these people include people from all of our target audiences. So what we did is we grabbed a random sample of these 100,000 people in these different groups, and we picked the amount of people we needed from doing a little statistics. Again, I know you love to do statistics, but you can do some very simple statistics online. Thank God for Google, because when I did this in college, I did it all by hand. That's how old I am. Okay, so we knew that we needed to get 398 people to participate in this activity so that we would have a plus or minus 5% margin of error and a 95% confidence level. Basically, that means so that your information is statistically valid. So we gathered about 6,945 emails from within GovDelivery, again, the random sample, and we sent this activity out. We thought it would take about 7 days to garner enough responses, and I also thought I might have to send it out a couple times to get 300 plus people, 398 people to respond. But actually, we received more than 680 participants in 48 hours. So people responded. They enjoyed the activity. And we included open-ended comments in the activity, and people again and again and again said that they loved being asked to participate in something like this. They loved government asking them for help. And we just thought that was really refreshing. Also, because so many people participated, and they were so enthusiastic about it, we were able to include these people in our new strategic action plan electronic distribution list, so that they could see the results of their input. So that was great. And then we got a ton of great comments that we were able to share with leadership, and they found that really interesting. In fact, they kind of decided that maybe they would leave the key message writing to the communications professionals. So that was great. So let's look at how some research tools that you can use for free. So if you don't have Optimal Workshop, you can get it. And Maggie, if you would put those links that I gave you in the chat, please. Thank you. So these tools all offer a free trial, and you can use them to do this kind of activities, these kinds of activities. Or if you already have a survey tool or this kind of a activity tool, use it. So Optimal Workshop does have a free trial that allows you to do one activity like this at a time. And same with User Zoom and UX Tweak. They all kind of do the same thing. They just kind of do it in a slightly different way. So wrapping up the case study, what we found is that this information that we gathered really helped us to develop a great plan. It helped us to make informed decisions, and it really gave us bonus points with our executive suite because CEOs, other leaders, they like data. They like data-backed decision making. And they're more likely to give you some credibility if you've got a little data to back yourself up. So great results from this, and it didn't cost us a thing but our time and energy. So in summary, use research to refine your audience, define your audience. Who are they? What challenges are they facing? Remember, there is no such thing as general public. There are specific people that are your audience, and you need to know what motivates them. How do they feel about your topic? Use research to test and revise messages, and use research to set baselines. Measure your results against a baseline. What was the impact? And then if you're doing an award, perhaps maybe you're entering Transcom awards, your research makes your award entry much stronger and it resonates with the judges. I judge a lot of award entries, and when somebody has done some research and has done some data-backed decision making, I am more likely to give them a good score. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
I love all these plugs, Sally. I swear I didn't put her up to it with all the AASHTO plugs. And I think that point that you made about the awards competition, the Transcom Skills Awards, which I'm getting emails about today already since we opened up or we let folks know about the meeting, is truly, I think that's where I know research has been done, but you have to talk about it because even a little bit goes a long way in helping everybody understand where you're coming from. And it's so helpful to see that when you're planning your own campaigns, what other people did. So great presentation, Sally. Thank you so much. We do have a question in the chat. A lot of this sounds like what we call engagement, seeking input to influence decision-making or a final product or plan. Would you call the research you're describing here from this presentation engagement?
Kind of, but not really. So this research is researching who your audience is and what information they need. That is an engaging thing to do, and you are engaging your audience. Then you're setting them up for what I would actually call the engagement process, where you're doing the actual outreach. So when we did the actual outreach for our plan, we knew who we were reaching out to, we knew what messages resonated with them, and we knew how they like to receive information. And so it made that part, the engagement part, super easy to do.
Great. Well, I have a question while other people are thinking. What would you say the most difficult part of this process for this particular case study was? Where do you think that you ran into the most roadblocks, or where were you most frustrated, or what portion of this should people be aware of could be trickier than others?
You know, we didn't really have a hard time with this because we had a lot of support from our communications manager, and we had support from our executives. They wanted us to take the time to do this, but there were some subject matter experts that said, you don't need research, just get it done. And I've been around the block long enough, and I actually am a certified expert. And so I was able to argue that research-based decision making is much better than just winging it. And so we were able to push through.
I have a question. Um, when you were doing your audience SWOT analysis, was there anything that surprised you about some of the answers that they gave, where you thought maybe, oh, I kind of know what they're going
Mhm.
to answer in these categories, that maybe jumped out to you that you didn't know before?
Yes, there was. We talked to some people representing some special interest groups who aren't always favorable of the work that we do. We have a group in Oregon called No More Freeways, and we took time to talk with them, do some one-on-one interviews, and they actually were very excited to share their thoughts. And that was surprising. We kind of thought they'd be a little more hostile, but they weren't. And they provided some excellent, honest feedback, and that was very appreciated.
And to follow up on that, do you feel like any of that opened up like a can of worms, where it was maybe a lot of, well, sure, I'll tell you what I think and this and that, and I know that once some of that conversation starts to happen, then there needs to be follow up on the DOT's end too. So did you
Mhm.
experience any of that as well?
Yes, yes, we did. We did. We, especially in the comments on the online activity, we got some feedback. We love that you're doing this. We think it's great. We don't believe that you'll follow through. Because, you know, government, we're not always trusted. Although in Oregon, our surveys show that the Department of Transportation is fairly trusted. So, but, you know, you're always going to get that kind of feedback. We also had people say, we're going to hold you to these statements, and they have, and that's fine. That's good. That's what government is about. We need to be accountable to the people that we serve. And so as we're executing the strategic action plan and we're working on those, our three goals, equity, workforce development, et cetera, if we're not achieving, we need to be accountable for that. So that's okay.
Do we have any other questions for Sally? I don't see any more in the chat or the Q&A box. All right. Well, Sally, thank you so much for doing this. Again, when we saw this Transcom proposal, we wanted to get this to folks in one way or another. So thank you for volunteering to do it via webinar. As Danielle mentioned, we've recorded this. We're gonna post it to the Transcom website, which is transportation.org backslash communications. And we'll have information on our April webinar coming up soon. Danielle, anything else?
I think that's it. I think, Sally, thank you so much. You covered a lot. I definitely learned a lot, and I'm going to write down all of those resources that you provided because a lot of them I had not heard about. So I think that's super valuable. Thank you so much again for putting that together for us. And thank you to everybody that joined today because these are for you. So we are so happy that you're here.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Have a
and we'll see
great
you next
day.
time.